March 21st will be the official start date for the National Wrestling Alliance in 2021. We know this because Sunday, in the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios in Atlanta, Georgia, the National Wrestling Alliance returns to pay-per-view with Back for the Attack. The headlines are here. The main event is scheduled to be NWA World Tag Team Champion Aaron Stevens challenging the world's heavyweight champion, the Dealer, the National Treasure, the real world's champion Nick Aldis, with the 10 pounds of gold on the line and the memory of Joseph Hudson waning in the background. The NWA is set. It's scheduled. It's going to happen this Sunday. Are you going to be watching? More so than that, NWA Power also returns next week on March 23rd, Tuesday, 6:05 p.m. on Fight TV. We get the return of NWA Power. Guys, my name is J Cal, and this is the Alliance Blog Podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. And if you aren't excited yet, check your pulse, because you might be dead. The NWA has been promising for over a year now that they would be back, and it's palpable. The electricity in the air, I mean, you could feel it. It's tangible. The NWA is just a mere hours away from returning. We're going to talk about the pay-per-view. I'm going to give you my predictions, and then we're going to talk about the subscription for the NWA and what's included with that. And we're going to talk about that after this. Let's make no mistake about it. The National Wrestling Alliance had literally caught lightning in a bottle. No pun intended, Billy. But the National Wrestling Alliance debuted their first episode of POWERRR from the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios in Atlanta on October the 8th, 2019. The first match was the Dawsons defeating Billy Buck and Sal Renaro. This is what would kick off more or less a cultural phenomenon in the world of professional wrestling, where YouTube seemed to be a place where every wrestling promotion was creating content. The NWA was no different, drawing hundreds of thousands of views on their channel for the NWA Power show. It destroyed anything the NWA had produced previous to that on their YouTube channel, and that includes the 10 pounds of gold. As the show would progress from October of 2019 through November, December, and January. January would mark the last episode that was filmed on January the 26th. And that show would later be aired on May the 12th under the name of the Superpower, or NWA Power episode number 21. That show was recorded as a lead-in to what would have been the Crockett Cup 2020. However, due to the global pandemic, that was shot down. After about a year of not being able to produce live wrestling, not to have live events or new matches shown on their YouTube channel, the NWA went a different direction. In partnering with Fight TV, they removed all video content from their YouTube channel, a move that really puzzled some because they had over 212 subscribers to their YouTube channel. This included all of the 10 pounds of gold, all of the shockwaves, all of the circled squares, and of course, all of the NWA powers. It was just announced a few days ago that the NWA's partnership with Fight TV would create the subscription service known as NWA Power, fittingly enough. That subscription service would gain the subscribers access to all of the old episodes of NWA Power from 1 to 21, as well as the episodes that are being filmed right now at the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios as part of the new relaunch of the NWA. Now, this coincides with the pay-per-view weekend. Of course, they're filming on Sunday for the live pay-per-view that will be taking place at the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios, back for the Attack. But more importantly, we're going to get NWA Power back. And that's something that has been missing from a lot of NWA wrestling fans. Now, there is a nominal fee to be a part of NWA Power going forward. And what really attracted a lot of viewers to the product initially was the fact that it was easy to use, being YouTube, and the cost. It was free. The only barriers of entry for the NWA were the pay-per-views or actually attending the events live. Of course, that's the only time that they put the product behind a pay window. Up until that point, you got everything for free. But again, as this is a business, the NWA has to provide results. It has to make money. So by joining Fight TV and being part of this new subscription service, the NWA guaranteed itself that it will be making a significant amount more money than it did previously. And the subscription cost isn't too expensive. You're going to be paying $4.99 for 3 new episodes a month. Now, that's a little bit different than the system we were used to, because again, on YouTube, they're releasing a new episode every month. A new episode every week. So that will change slightly, but you'll also have access to select pay-per-views. I know that right now, Into the Fire and Hard Times are officially available if you are part of the NWA Pro Wrestling subscription service. One thing that I did find out is you can't use your mobile credits to pay for the subscription service. So if you were planning to buy the pay-per-views and subsidize your subscription based on the credits that you earn from purchasing pay-per-views, that's not how it works. And as we move forward, the NWA is really going to be taking a different look, and it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen and how it's going to break down. Now, we do know this. The last time we saw the NWA Power, we were able to actually watch it on Fight TV for free, as well as YouTube. But that had to change. So what happens on this pay-per-view is really going to change the direction for the National Wrestling Alliance. It's going to give us some insight to what's going to happen next. But one thing that I saw that was very interesting that I don't know if it had been pointed out before, but on the press release, on the advertisement page on their Fight TV, they list a few wrestlers who will be in action on the subscription service. They mention Nick Aldis, of course, Aaron Stevens, Chris Adonis, Thunder Rosa, J.R. Kratos, Trevor Murdoch. Interestingly enough, I don't see Elijah Burke's name on here, or Tim Storms, or Tom Latimer, or Camille. But a name that came up that was kind of puzzling was Mike Bennett, because we all know Mike Bennett is currently on the Ring of Honor roster. And the last time we saw Mike Bennett associated with the NWA was with Primetime Live. Mike Bennett is still in the tournament finals to declare a United Wrestling Network World Champion. So it's interesting to me to see his name associated with the NWA going forward. Now, it should be noted that the Fight TV Plus program does not grant access to the NWA Power subscription. So those are two different services. Don't get them confused. Don't make the mistake of expecting to see one without the other. They're just not connected in that way. Now, the first episode is set to debut on this Tuesday in the same old time slot, the 6:05 p.m. time slot. And I think that's really cool that they're still honoring the tradition of that, the Jim Crockett Promotions. And one thing that I did notice that's new to the Fight TV application is where they have these events. In the previous episodes, it was still a generic graphic for the first season, episode 1 through 9. But as it goes now, episode 10 and beyond, each event has its own significant poster, graphic in it. So it's a little bit kind of tells you what the story is. For example, like episode 13 shows Marty Scurll and Tim Storm. Episode 14 shows Scott Steiner. Episode 15 features Ricky Morton and Nick Aldis. So it kind of gives you a breakdown. Episode 17, Thunder Rosa and Allison Kay. So it kind of shows you going forward what's on those posters, kind of is indicative of what's on that event. Just thought that was interesting, kind of cool. But the first episode 22, it's set to air in just 4 days. Just 4 days. So the NWA is back. We've been telling you that for weeks and months, that the NWA would be coming back. It's finally here, guys. $4.99 gets you part of the program, keeps you part of the party, keeps you part of the NWA going forward. And again, the extra perks of being able to see a couple of the pay-per-views that if you hadn't ordered in the past are going to be made available to you as part of the subscription service. And I would imagine as long as this subscription service continues to go, you'll see other pay-per-views introduced. Perhaps we'll see like the Crockett Cup 2019 or Back for the Attack maybe will be part of the episode offerings later down the road after it's already aired on Fight TV and had been out for a while. So I mean that's where we're at with the NWA Power, and let's talk about the pay-per-view. Let's talk about Back for the Attack. Thanks again for tuning in to the Alliance Blog Podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you won't miss any future episodes? We'd also like to remind you that we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on YouTube at the Alliance Blog. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok, and Twitch at the Alliance Blog. Remember, absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, add what is essentially your own. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Over a year in the making. Reassuring the fans all over the world that the NWA would be back. And now it's time. As of this recording, as of right in this moment, we are 1 day, 21 hours, and 27 minutes away from the NWA returning to pay-per-view. The NWA presenting Back for the Attack live on Fight TV, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. And are you as excited as I am? There's going to be some new faces to the NWA. There's going to be some old ones that are returning. There's going to be some things you're going to love about this pay-per-view. And there's going to be some things that you're probably scratching your head and wondering why. Because I'm in that camp as well. But more so than anything else, we're, as the NWA fam, that hashtag NWA fam on Twitter, on Facebook, and on social media, we're finally getting an NWA card. And if you're not excited about that, then you're watching the wrong pro wrestling. It's been so long since we've seen the NWA that I almost forgot where we were. Because I know things are going to be different. That this isn't the same NWA that, was supposed to be going into the Crockett Cup 2020. We're going to have some different faces. Of course, we've talked about that. We've covered that pretty extensively here on this podcast. We've mentioned, that the War Kings, the odds-on favorite to win the Crockett Cup 2019, the tag team of Jack Stain and Crimson, will be at the NWA Back for the Attack, but they won't be in a tag team match. They'll be actually competing against each other in a 4-way match. And this is actually one of these things that I scratch my head about, because they're also going to be in the ring with Jordan Clearwater and Slice Boogie, but it's not a tag team match, it's a 4-way match. And I don't know about you, but history, tradition, and respect doesn't really coincide with 4-way matches to me. And the other part of it is this match doesn't really lend itself to like a number one contendership or anything. It's just a match. It's just thrown together. And it's not my favorite, but I do enjoy each of the participants in the match. And in a card that is being dedicated to the memory of Josephus, also known as a question mark. It's dedicated to the memory of Joseph Hudson. I do believe that the competitors, not only in this match, but every match on this card, will give it their all and put in 110% to make sure that you feel like you invested your $19.99 correctly. Hell, the WWF is running a pay-per-view later in the evening. If you want to make an entire wrestling day out of this, you can. But for me, I'm choosing the NWA. And getting back to it, that four-way match that's featuring Crimson and Jack Stane and Jordan Clearwater and Slice Boogie, don't sleep on this match. Just because I don't quite understand the booking behind it doesn't mean it's not going to be a very interesting bout. I mean, Slice Boogie is your 2019 SoCal Uncensored Rookie of the Year award winner. He's a prodigy out of the Santino Brothers Wrestling School, the same wrestling school, by the way, that has produced talents all across the country. Brody King in Ring of Honor, Tyler Bateman in Ring of Honor, and really a bevy of talent that you guys know and respect. Heather Monroe, Rays, and honestly, there's just countless others. A lot of great talents have come from the Santino Brothers Wrestling School, Slice Boogie just being another one. Jordan Clearwater, a protege of Carl the Machine Gun Anderson, a former United Wrestling Network Hollywood Heritage Champion. He's currently the EWF Americas Champion. I know that doesn't mean a whole lot to this national audience that listens to this podcast, but he's an accomplished athlete, trained out of the NWF Bone Crushers Academy. Jordan Clearwater has a lot of potential, a lot of untapped potential. In fact, the reason why he's in this match is because when he faced Nick Aldis one-on-one in a non-title match, he impressed the world's heavyweight champion. This will be Jordan Clearwater's return to the NWA because he was featured on that Shockwave episode. But the other return is Jack Stane, who the last time we saw in the NWA, he and Tim Storm battled all throughout the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios. He was a monster. He was actually managed by Danny Deals. No word if Danny Deals will still be managing Jack Stane in this incarnation, this new era of the NWA. But like I said, he and Crimson are a tag team. They tag team all over the country. They've tag teamed in Ohio Valley. They've tag teamed on Impact Wrestling. They've tag teamed for SWE Fury and all points north, south, east, and west. It's kind of surprising to me that this wasn't just a tag team match. I mean, I know that the tag team titles are indisposed on this card. In fact, there isn't a single tag team match on the entire pay-per-view, but I kind of felt like this would have been a good opportunity to just kind of showcase Crimson and Jack Stane to the audience that might not be familiar with them. And who knows, maybe the booking will lead to that. But I don't love this match, but I love the talent involved with it, and I know that they're going to present something that's really going to be fun and a great way to open up the pay-per-view. So I'm excited about that, and I don't normally try to predict shows, but I'm just going to say it right now. Jack Stane has the most visibility of anybody in this match. He's a former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. He's a former NWA Tag Team Champion. Hell, he unified the NWA National and North American title at one point. So I'm going to say Jack Stane gets the victory here, hopefully setting up a tag team down the road with he and Crimson reuniting as the War Kings. The next match scheduled is the National Heavyweight Champion, Trevor Murdoch, defending his title, sometimes called the Seahorse belt because it has a little seahorse on it. He'll be defending his title against Chris Adonis. This is another interesting matchup. If you guys go back in the annals of professional wrestling, you go back and watch an episode of Monday Night Raw or WWF Jacked or Metal, you might have seen Cade and Murdoch taking on Carlito and Masters, aka Chris Adonis. And although the history hasn't taken place in the NWA, I know these two have squared off in the WWE quite a numerous of occasions. So it'll be interesting to see these two back in the ring face-to-face. And that national title, Trevor Murdoch won on Primetime Live by defeating Aaron Stevens. Successfully defended it for the first time last month at SWE Fury against Jeremy Wyatt, a former NWA regional champion in his own right. This match will be interesting. You're taking a hoss like Trevor Murdoch, who has a never say die attitude, against the master of the Master Lock. And Chris Adonis, I don't go to sleep on this guy. He's not just all, muscles and everything. He could actually wrestle. I've seen him wrestle in the ring. I've seen him have good matches. So this one's going to be a close call, but I think the national champion will retain, because I do believe that the NWA has big plans for Trevor Murdoch. The next match, again, this is kind of a head turner, a head scratcher, if you will. World Tag Team Champion JR Kratos will take on Tyrus. Now, a lot of people know Tyrus. I mean, we've talked about him on this podcast. He wasn't somebody I particularly am fond of, but apparently the NWA is. And we'll learn a lot about the NWA going forward with how this match plays out. Because Kratos was, handpicked by the NWA to partner with Aaron Stevens on Primetime Live. Kratos, made his impact on Primetime Live by tossing around Michael Bennett like a rag doll. Jared Kratos is a mountain of a man, and he's going to be stepping into the ring with a guy who's, even bigger. 6'7", 375 pounds. Tyrus is nothing short of a monstrous man. So it'll be interesting to see how that match plays out. I'm going to say that I'm hoping that the NWA treats its World Tag Team Champion with the respect that he deserves, and that JR Kratos comes up victorious in this match. But I won't be surprised if Tyrus gets his hand raised at the end of the night. The next match on the card will feature the World Television Champion and quite possibly the best promo in the NWA. The Elijah Burke, also known as the Black Pope, defends his title against Tom Latimer. Now, Latimer is a brute, right? We saw Latimer and Trevor Murdoch battle for that TV title in the tournament, and it was a match that was balls to the walls. It was intense. It was ferocious. It was brutality for the sake of brutality, and I loved it. Elijah Burke won the NWA television title by defeating Zicky Dice in Primetime Live. But he's going to have his hands full against Tom Latimer. Now, I know that at one point, Vincent Kennedy McMahon declared the Pope, Elijah Burke, the future of the WWE, long before Drew Galloway. So it'll be interesting to see how this match is going to play out. Again, you're talking about somebody who, not only dispatched Zicky Dice and sent his bags packing, but he is the television champion. And he is another guy with unlimited potential, a lot of untapped potential. And we've seen him on Power strictly as a manager, but we haven't seen him in the ring. We haven't seen him showcase just how good he is. Now, we saw it on Primetime Live, and we'll see how that translates to Fight TV. We'll see how that translates to Back for the Attack. But this is the match that I'm actually going to predict an upset. I'm predicting Tom Latimer will become your new NWA television champion. He's a former tag team champion. Like I said, he's been very aggressive in the ring. He's very tough. And not to mention, Camille will probably be in his corner, giving him an advantage over the Pope. So we'll see how that one plays out as well. Again, I'm putting my money on Tom Latimer. The next match is going to be really, really good, because we're getting the superstar. We're getting Camille taking on Thunder Rosa for a number one contenders match, where the winner of this match is going to get a shot at Serena Deeb, the World women's champion. Now let's talk about that for a minute, because we know Serena Deeb has been on the shelf. Orthoscopic surgery on her knee to clean it up. We knew weeks ago that she wouldn't be making this pay-per-view. But with her knee right, she is a veritable force in the ring. And she's made the NWA very proud by defending that title in AEW. She is yet to defend the title in an NWA ring. In fact, she won it in the United Wrestling Network. So this will be the first time that the NWA, it's not the first time, but when Serena Deeb returns to the NWA, she'll be defending the title in a foreign ring, in a foreign wrestling promotion, and as a champion that she's been since last year. So again, this is another compelling storyline, because remember, Camille in the NWA has only had 4 matches. 2 of which were from Primetime Live, and the other 2 were in the NWA ring. So again, Camille is a superstar, guys. The way she's presented, the way she's treated, the way she gets in the ring with everyone else, she's a superstar. But the problem is she's still very, very green. However, Thunder Rosa just got done beating the stuffings out of Britt Baker. She made her bleed her own blood. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if the women's champion is being fast-tracked. It wouldn't surprise me if the former women's champion is being fast-tracked to a shot in AEW. But she still has to go through Camille Sunday night. And whoever walks away from that match with their hand being raised will get a shot at Serena Deeb. So again, things are starting to line up in this pay-per-view. It's going to be very interesting. And of course, the main event. The way they're going to memorialize Joseph Hudson is when his friend, his student, if you will, Aaron Stevens, walks into the ring for the first time in the NWA, not under a gi, not under a silly acting gimmick, but as a wrestler. He was trained to be a wrestler. He was trained to be a fighter. Aaron Stevens is no slouch, guys. If you're sleeping on Aaron Stevens, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Aaron Stevens has not lost a match in which he's challenged for an NWA championship since joining NWA Power. And I know that's a little tongue-in-cheek, that's a little silly, but that's actual factual. I did not mean to rhyme there. You know, he trained under Killer Kowalski. Let's talk about that for a minute. Training under Killer Kowalski. We know Frankie Kazarian trained under Killer Kowalski, and we know that Triple H trained under Killer Kowalski. So there's something to be said for students of Killer Kowalski. How many more times can I say his name? Killer Kowalski, Killer Kowalski. Anyways, what I'm getting at is Aaron Stevens isn't just a joke, guys. And we saw that when he was wrestling against Trevor Murdoch and those vicious cross faces. It was no joke, guys. And he said that he's taking this match. He's taking this match seriously. He's not going to be wearing the karate gi. He's going to be coming with everything he has for Nick Aldis. And I know what you guys are saying. Hey, you know what? He hasn't wrestled since winning the tag team titles. Well, you're right. But Nick Aldis hasn't wrestled a ton of matches either. Remember, Nick Aldis had only defended the World's Heavyweight Championships 5 times in 2020. He defended the title once so far in 2021, and that was back in January. So both of these men are going to have a considerable amount of ring rust. Maybe not. Maybe they've worked it all out. But I think the opportunity is there for either one of these guys to really surprise people. And again, let's understand the gravity of the issue. William Patrick Corgan booked this match because he wanted to respect his friend Josephus. He wanted to pay homage to Joseph Hudson by putting Joseph Hudson's former tag team partner, Aaron Stevens, in a match where he has an opportunity to become NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. Now, that was the quest of Josephus early in the beginning of the NWA. He had challenged Tim Storm multiple times to try to win that NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. It's not a foregone conclusion that Nick Aldis will walk out of the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios as NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. It just isn't. Now, I'd be crazy to make the case that Aaron Stevens, battling through the grief of losing his friend, but having regained his passion for pro wrestling, who is already committed to not being a silly character when he comes out on Sunday, to taking this match seriously. I'd be crazy to say that Aaron Stevens was going to win this match. I'd be crazy to say that Aaron Stevens has all the tools necessary to become your world's heavyweight champion. Well, if that's crazy, maybe I'm a little nuts. Because I think on Sunday night, when that pay-per-view closes, and the absolute best way to honor the memory of Josephus, JR Kratos will be in the ring celebrating with Aaron Stevens, not only as the tag team champions, but also Aaron Stevens' world championship run. And that'll be the way we kick off NWA Power 2021. And you guys, if you think I'm right, or whether you think I'm wrong, use the hashtag TalkNWA and tell me on social media what you think.